noise!
Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm. Brought to you by funkinstuff.net, this is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine, musicologist, creative arts journalist, and multimedia pro. Whether you're watching the video version of this show or the audio-only podcast version, I thank you so much for your continued interest and support in this show. If you enjoy this programming, there are several ways to help support Truth and Rhythm, as well as contribute to further enhancements and expansion, plus get some sweet perks and rewards in the process. First, subscribe to the Funkin' Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth and Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Second, join Truth and Rhythm's new membership program through Patreon, which features 3 tiers for truth believers, truth seekers, and truth crusaders. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at funkinstuff.net. At that site, which is loaded with awesome content, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk. Shop for official Truth and Rhythm and Funkin' Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. Sponsorship opportunities are available as well. Contact me directly at scottg@funkinstuff.net. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm. I'm pleased to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership drummer Benzel Cowan. Hey, man. Yeah, since 2010, he's best known for keeping everything on the one for George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic. As the son of longtime P-Funk horn trumpet player Benny Cowan, he grew up immersed in funk so deep and first sat in with the P-Funk All-Stars while still a teenager. Mentored by P-Funk and jazz drumming icon Dennis Chambers, Benzel has collaborated and recorded with several other Clinton cohorts, including Danny Bedrosian, Michael Clip Payne, Garrett Shider, and Lige, all of whom have been guests on Truth and Rhythm as well. So it's high time we've had Benzel on. How are you, man?
Hanging in there. Pleasure to be here on Truth and Rhythm. I love the name.
Hey, thanks. Pleasure
Those two go hand in hand.
You ought to know.
You'll find out the truth through the rhythm.
Where are you coming to us from today, Benzel?
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, in the basement.
The basement where it all goes down, right?
Yeah. My dad's been making some music, so we got the little studio hooked up over here, just a little bit of stuff, and, just to lay down some stuff.
Very cool, very cool. And must be feeling pretty good because you guys have just recently got back out there and doing it again after some downtime, so that's got to feel good. Yeah,
it's great, and I heard George say that we're going to be a little busy coming up, so we've been off for quite a while, so now it's time to double up on the work.
Well,
as long as we can.
The people need it more than ever, so you got to bring it to them for sure.
I need it too, playing in the basement and local gigs and at church and stuff like that. It's a good thing, but it's not the same amount of energy exerted, or the same workout or the same push, So getting back out there, we just played this gig in Florida a couple of days ago, and that was at Okeechobee Fest, and we were in there rehearsing, and we had Mono Neon join us, and Taz, Brandon Niedermeyer, and a group called Earth Gang, and it was cool. They joined us on stage, but we're in there rehearsing for a couple hours for no reason. And then now we're just getting on stage, and I just remembered that we're playing at a festival that has like 50,000 people out there. So now I'm just looking like, oh, we got to play in front of all these people today. Haven't done that in a while.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure
Yeah.
it wasn't easy without the, rehearsal time, but it looked like the people had a really good time. So,
Oh, yeah, it worked out.
yeah. Well, I look forward to you coming through the Carolinas again soon. But in the meantime, I'm glad to talk to you right now. So, Benzel, of course, your dad, is the trumpet player, has been in P-Funk for so long, and you grew up in and around it. And you're also from Baltimore, which is such a hotbed with so many of the, funk mob members have come from there. That whole, Baltimore group of guys. What was it like growing up in that environment for you?
It's a tad intimidating. You have to know what you're trying to do, and you have to push for that goal, despite of like the adversities and the other people that may sound better than you think, or you're not on that level yet. You have to just push through that. So it's a great Baltimore is a great training ground for pushing through, for sure. And having like the funk mob members being from Baltimore, like Greg Boyer and Greg Thomas, all these cats, they're so elevated, and they're like grew up with my dad and stuff. So I kind of been around those people for a long time. So I've had this kind of push for greatness since birth, kind of being around these people that they're just expecting you to be on a level. So you kind of have to work up to that.
Yeah, even Skeet and Mudbone and just so many guys. I mean,
and Dennis, of course.
Yeah.
The most intimidating factor of all of it is the Dennis, and Mudbone too. All those cats, they really know music really well, and they know like this particular style of music very well. So being up under those guys and trying to play this music and actually stepping on stage at 15 years old with P-Funk is a very hot seat, and they all are expecting a certain thing, and they know that you're younger, so they know you're going to play some stuff, but they really want to see you play with some maturity if you're going to sit on this set.
Do you remember your first time like being at one of their shows, like when you were a little kid or something?
There was a lot. There was a lot of times. It started from when I was first born, basically, and old enough to be taken there, and they just passed me around, like Bootsy and all of them, just and Dennis and all of them held me and passed me around and stuff like that. So I was around a lot. I was falling asleep to gigs all the time. Like I don't know how that's possible because it's so loud. But I was somehow able to fall asleep during that. Those are long concerts, though. It was 4-hour shows at that time, 5-hour shows, maybe 3.5 hours.
P-Funk lullaby, yeah.
Exactly. So I kind of had to hear that stuff in my sleep. So I, just jump up on the drums at some point, be like, oh yeah, I know, Red Hot Mama or something, and I might, play sound check with Skeet or something like that. I had a lot of opportunity to get up there and play on sound check first before I had the audacity to go to George and say, okay, I'm ready to play this particular song, which is Dog Star, Fly On. It was like the first song that I was studying that they were playing on stage at the time. I was studying the whole set. By the time I was 11, I had live tapes, and my dad would have me practicing to these tapes at like 10, 11 years old. So between playing that and playing one of my favorite records, which was America Eats Is Young, so it had a lot of Tiki Forward on drums. So I was kind of getting to that style younger, and trying to Tyrone and Dennis, trying to like learn some of that stuff. And Frankie Cash Waddy that was on there. Dennis not on that record, but Dennis is just in my life on drums. I can't think about drums without thinking about him at some point.
So you first played up there with Blackbird on Fly On Dog Star?
On Dog, yeah. That was Warner Theater, DC, 1999. So I was 15. I was in high school, and that was like April or something. Still during the school year when that
Were you
happened. So I
nervous?
still had to go to school the next day.
Were you nervous?
No, I was actually excited. I was excited because I've had opportunities to just play on sound check, and I was nervous because it requires you to play a little bit longer. So you have to be prepared to play 20 minutes, even though it's like an 8-minute song, or you need to be prepared to play 10 minutes, even though it's a 4-minute song. So you always have to be prepared for extra. So I learned that early playing with George Clinton, that you had to bring extra to the table. You might have to play the whole show. Something might happen. You just have to play the whole show right now. That's how we came up. So you have to just be ready at all times. So from like 15, 16 up, I had to just, whenever I was at a show, I'd be prepared to be playing a song that night. Once you played that first time, now it's like, okay, now you're expected to do that now. When you're in DC or Baltimore or Philly or Virginia or New York or wherever, you're going to sit in. So that thing started happening from 15 years old. But the first one was Warner Theater. And then there was somewhere else, I think, another club, maybe Constitution Hall or something. And then after that was Woodstock 99, July. That was on George's birthday. It was the 23rd, I think, or something, July. 22nd, maybe.
Who was the main drummer then? Was it Gabe or somebody else?
It was Frank.
Oh.
But everybody was there. I don't think Gabe was there, but Ron Wright was playing. So Ron Wright was playing the Gabe stuff at that time. Gabe's on that record, Fly On. But Ron Wright was there, Frankie. I think Rico was there too. Yep, and myself.
So did you feel like it was sort of preordained, that you would end up playing in the band? I mean, at what point did you think you wanted to do that or that you would do it?
Well, actually, around that development time when I was 11 years old, that's when I started playing, getting paid a couple dollars to play music. So the band used to come over the house, like the whole band. They just had 2 tour buses outside and just bring any of the members that wanted to come. Even George would come over. So they would bring the guys over the house, and the drums are down there. So, and they're all talking about my dad. Oh, you could play or whatever. So then they would take me down there and watch what I do, and they would just be teaching me right there. So they were already trying to ordain it early. Like, oh yeah, like, oh, play it like this. I had like Boogie down there, and he'd be playing the bass, and he'd be, we'd be playing the songs, and they'd just be checking me to see if I know the groove or to this song or to that song. They'd be like, oh, you got, pull the beat back, which I didn't know what that meant as a young man, because young men don't know how to pull it back. But that's what I had to learn, is to pull it back. What's that mean? That means like when you're getting to that edge where you're about to be over the BPM, you need to pull it back to the front of the BPM. Because once you get into the front of it, you're about to go to the next BPM. So, we had 90, you're pushing to go to 91, 92. So you have to pull it back to the 89 to get to 90 sometimes. Weird. It's weird. It's time travel is what we call it. It's what I started to realize what it is. It's time travel. Because you're playing in between BPMs.
A lot to funk anyway is playing just like behind the beat a little bit anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like the band is kind of pushing and the drummer is like pulling. So it's like a tug of war, but it's like simultaneous. So even though they're kind of like, bam, 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 like that, the drums are still like, it's like right behind it. It's like that clap thing, and it's like a big frequency between that hi-hat opening to the clap. This is where the BPM thing happens, because it's like this is the difference between, or like the medium between hip hop and funk. because it's just this scat thing. It's like that's like a hip hop thing, you know. So it's like, but like there's a little bit of extra time between that opening and that clap or that snare hit. So that's what they're trying to portray live, which is crazy. But they're only doing that to manipulate the sound of when you're playing like in a big stadium or something, and they're kind of playing to like the last person in the back. So that's why they kind of have to pull it back because of the echo
delay. Yeah.
So they're trying to catch the echo live by pulling it back. Whatever.
When did you first play like a full show?
First time was that a full show? I would say something like 2008 or 9. I got a call to do a show, and maybe I did like half of the show, maybe, but it was like or more than half. But I got called in to do it off of the whim for some reason. So that was like the first time around 2008 in Virginia Beach or something. And that was a good gig. I still wasn't in the band yet, but I was around. I've been around. I've been a little gun. Like, oh, we could pull him out on stage real quick. Because George always likes to have little surprises. So when I was younger, I was kind of a surprise that I might come up there and actually be able to like survive a song or two, let alone a whole show.
Do you have brothers or sisters?
Only a half brother that's very distant. But I have god sisters, and I have a lot of friends that I can call brothers. But
I was just wondering if there are any other musicians, besides yourself.
My cousin, we have a musical family. My family comes from church, like my cousins and stuff like that. They come from church, so it's a whole lot of like singing and hearing a whole lot of music and knowing changes. So it's like they're musical just by understanding the changes of gospel music and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It makes you a little bit more musical.
Did you spend much time just playing, jamming with your dad, apart from the band?
My dad kind of just, was more of an observer. He kind of just watched what I did. We've played together. He's like, when I played in high school, he came in my high school and played with them. Before we've done that, I've done a lot of different jazz programs and stuff, and he might come in and sit in or whatever, stuff like that. We've done a couple shows together. But for the most part, he's more of an observer and just kind of lets me know where I should be at or what I should work on and stuff like that, or what he thinks I should work on, which is a part of the thing. It's a part of the thing too. It's like I can always take some advice from him. He knows music.
So it was around 2010 when you became a band member?
Yeah, like 2010/11. I actually started off as a drum tech. It was just like, I was sitting in. I could sit in whenever I wanted. It wasn't a big deal. No pressure. You just come sit in on a song, Dog Star, or another song called Something Stinking, I Want Some. That's actually the song that I played at Woodstock. I wanted to play Fly On, but we ended up playing Something Stinking, I Want Some, which I also knew too.
So Tiva would do that rap on that, right?
Yeah. Yep. And then we go into this long thing on this Woodstock performance. I'm sure I can send it to you later. It's on YouTube if you haven't seen it. I'm sure you have, but it's this long stretch. And it's this war between Blackbird McKnight and Lily Hayden. And there's so many guitar players on stage. It's amazing. And it's just going on and on and on. And I'm just sitting there trying to survive playing in front of 100,000 people. I would never expect to do something like that at that age. And kind of at that point, I'm like, definitely want to do that again and want to be able to actually try to conquer that fear, of being able to just, play right notes and don't drop sticks and everything, and nothing goes wrong. Everything's beautiful.
Yeah, it's hard
That's
to
what
hide
we're
when
always working for.
it's hard to hide when you're the drummer holding that beat for the whole band. I mean, you gotta
Yeah,
really
especially
be
if you're
on
playing
it.
in front of that many people. And then you got like all the cameras and the pay-per-view and all that stuff. That's documented in history stuff. You know, so there was a lot of praying going on that day. That week, actually, because I knew, because we played that one gig, and then like the next gig that was coming up was Woodstock in a couple months. From like April, like the next gig, it was in July. So I'm thinking like, oh, and then my dad was like, oh, you guys are going to come to that show. So I'm like, I'm going to that show. So I'll probably ask George if I can play. You know, it's going to happen. So, and he was down. It was actually 2 nights in a row. So I actually had a chance to play the first night, which was his actual birthday, and then the next night, which was their actual slot. But they just had like a birthday thing the first night. So I played that night too. But then I've seen both. They were both cool. I don't know which one I like better, but I think I like the second one better, maybe. I'm not sure. I like them both. They're a little wild, though.
When you became a band member, it was not too long before we lost Gary. And then over the next few years, I mean, we lost a lot of the guys.
Right.
So what could you share with viewers, Benzel, about some of those guys like Gary, or you mentioned Boogie, or I don't know if you got to know
I know them all.
Bernie very well.
I know them all.
Peanut, you know.
What's the exact date that Gary passed?
I think it was 2011, wasn't it? I don't know the exact date. So it's been about 10 years.
It's been a while, but before he passed, I wanted to play Fly On again this particular night on this particular show, which was like, I think it was like his last show, maybe before, you know, it was in DC. And I wanted to play that song, or I wanted to play that night, but you know, there's a whole bunch of drummers and there's a lot of politics going on that stage all the time, especially back at that time. Because everybody's a legend back then, you know. So I'm like, I want to play tonight, or whatever I'm going off or whatever. And, you know, I didn't know what he was talking about at the time, but at the time he was just like, oh, it doesn't matter if you don't play tonight. You're going to be in the band anyway. I said, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be in the band. Nice, telling me I'm going to be in the band. So I'm like, okay, that means I'm in the band. So now I'm in the band. This is like one of Gary's last things that he said to me before he left here, was that I'm in the band. So yeah, that's kind of like my last story with Gary, which is just crazy. I didn't even think about it at the time. I mean, I was like sitting in here and there and doing the tech thing, but he was saying, you're going to be one of the main drummers. Is what he was saying. You know, you're doing what you're doing right now, but you don't worry about it. You will be playing the drums. So I kind of just had to wait a little bit, work, had to do a lot of work, a lot of drum tacking, a lot of, you know, carrying this and doing that and helping this person and helping that person and all that stuff, and play a song or two as well, you know. And so it was a really nice little road. Then you got people like Boogie, like I said, he took me in the basement and he showed me how to pull it back, and he actually showed me about 16th notes on the hi-hat. You know, Boogie plays drums. So he's like showing me like how to play.
Yeah, he played everything.
And I'm like, oh, really? Yeah. He's like, I'm like, oh, I didn't know it was like that. He was showing me how to play Mothership Connection at the, you know, at the Swing Down Sweet Chariot stop part. And he was talking about, it goes bam pop, ding bop, ding. He's like, no, you're not ready to do that yet. You don't know about that yet. I'm like, what? I can play that. He's like, okay, do it, dude. I was like doing it with one foot. And, you know, he's like, you can do it with the double. It's just right there. You might as well just use that. So I'm like, okay. So now, and I really wasn't oriented with double pedal at the time. Like, double pedal was my fear, actually. I didn't like, you know, us gospel guys, like, we don't need double pedal. We play with one foot, you know. But you had to have that double pedal. It helps. It helps. So I definitely he taught me how to do more like, you know what I mean? Or even though it's what Dennis does anyway, but he was just reiterating that you can do that. Bang, you know, with the cymbals in the double pedal. Instead of trying to muscle it out with one foot, it's not going to be as loud as the dude doing it with a double pedal. And it doesn't necessarily make you a rock guy because you're doing a rock lick. Yeah, so I learned that. One time I was with, we were playing with George at the Apollo for something they were honoring him for. And they had all these cats there, Will Calhoun and Norwood, Booty, T.M. Stevens. It's a long list of people who were at this thing. Questlove, Paul Schaefer, all these people. And I'm walking down the street coming towards the show, and I see Bernie and Will Calhoun outside talking. You know, so I go over, I'm like, hey, what's up, uncles? You know, talking to the uncles and stuff. But as I'm coming over there, they're like, yeah, little Benny's ready. He's ready for the road. And they're telling each other like, I heard him play. You know, he sounds good. I think he's ready to do the thing. What do you think? And Will's like, oh yeah, he sounds good. I think he. So they're just like talking about that. And then here comes Questlove talking about, can he borrow my sticks for the song After Mine, which was cool. I let him borrow. It was cool, but that was just a moment that I shared with Bernie, Will, and Questlove. You know, but Bernie was legendary. You ever seen that video that he did when he was at NAMM show?
I've seen videos of him at the NAMM show. I don't know if it's the video you're talking about.
This one performance is just, I don't know. His style is just ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
it's just another thing. I don't know. I feel like it definitely paved the way for some of the stuff that's going on the synthesizers and keys today.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, you came in, so I mean, crossing with Gary and Boogie and these guys. I mean, you got to get some of that deep tribal knowledge of the music of the P, you know, that was passed along to you directly from creators, you know. So that is
the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
And then I got cursed out by Billy Bass one time because I was playing Maggot Brain. And we probably played a couple shows. I think I'm on the road at this point. Like I'm on the road. And like my song was like Maggot Brain, maybe Fly On, maybe Verge or something. You never know. There would probably be You and Your Folks, stuff like that. That was like the era that I started with when they brought me out and I was playing drums. We were playing like Funkadelic. I was playing like Funkadelic stuff. I guess I kind of had a little Tiki Tyrone-ish type thing that George thought he could play with. So I'm playing Maggot Brain and I'm kind of feeling some other thing and I'm going into some other thing. And he just like, I really thought he was going to murder me that day. And he's like, I'm going to kill you. He's like, if you ever play that again, I promise I'll kill you. Like it's like the Funk Mafia. It is the Funk Mafia. He's like, I'll literally end you if you do that again. I'm thinking, at this time we got video recordings and stuff. So I actually got the recording of it. So I'm listening to it and I see where he's coming from. And I see where I'm coming from. Okay, I hear you. So now I'm like, all right. So then the next day I got to play the song with him again. I got to play with him again. And I'm like, oh, and George be seeing the friction. He's like, oh yeah, y'all need to practice that. So we're going to do that song again. So now I'm like, okay, well, what do I have to do? I got to go back to the record. This is basically what was instilled by all the funk guys, other than what they're showing you right there. It's like, you got to go back to the record. You have to go back to the record. And if you're playing stuff like the record, you kind of protect it. If you could play it like the record. The only problem is there's many records. So there's this one version of Red Hot Mama that's on Osmium. Then there's this other version of Red Hot Mama that's on the same, that's on like the same record as Standing on the Verge or whatever. So now it's like, oh, those are, so now you gotta learn both of those records. You know, it's like that. So it's like, well, which record am I learning? So, so you have to learn the record. They have to learn the record version and the live version. And whatever we're doing right now. Because there's always a little bit of a change sometimes. But there's a couple albums that you can go back to and you can pretty much, or a couple live records that you can kind of go back to and you can be like, okay, I can study this to get this. But that's basically what they would instill in you. Like, you learn that record. Like, if you learn the record, then we can play the song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's such a deep catalog. I mean, but it's such a thrill for fans, longtime fans, you know, when one of those songs is pulled out, you know, that hasn't been done in a while. That's what's really cool.
Yeah, like Alice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's kind of like a song that I like doing. Like, you know, I definitely had a nice relationship with George. You know, it's a thing. But, like, I've had a thing with George where I can be like, oh, we should, you know, start with this and start with that. You know, me and him talk about that stuff. You know, lately I've been letting him just do whatever he want to do. But for the most part, like, we're on a tour or we're on the road, you know, I'm going to go talk to him about it. Like, oh, we should do this, we should do that. And George,
like a year or two ago when he pulled out Butt to Butt Resuscitation, like in the opening, you know?
Well, it's because we were doing it a sound check. Like, that's how we do it. We'll just be like, we just do it a sound check, and then we'll tell them we did it a sound check. Or somebody will say, they did such and such a sound check. And then he'll be like, oh, okay. You know, then he'll pull it out. You know, so I like to let them know that we worked on stuff or something like, oh, we can do this. We can do this and that. We can do that. And they're like, okay, let's do it. So that's been cool.
And Danny seems to be a good historian, you know, of that stuff too. So I'm guessing he probably like maybe throw some stuff out there and maybe you guys will pick up on it.
Oh yeah, he takes a little interlude to Maggot Brain every night, and he basically does like a different Parliament song every night. It's always a different one. But, you know, unless you ask him to do another one that he's done already. But for the most part, there's that many songs. Or it'll be like a cycle of like 15 or 20 songs or something that he'll do. So that's always been crazy that he knows all these songs. And George knows them too.
Does he ever surprise you with that? Or do you know that he's coming with that one that night?
You never know what he's going to do. But I'm just like, oh, okay, he's doing that. Because, you know, George just jumps in because he knows it all too. So it's like, oh, okay, they're doing that one. I'm taking a break at that point. I'm running to the bathroom and coming back. So I'll hear it while I'm in the bathroom. Like, oh, he's doing that. Okay. You know, I take about 2 minutes and then I'll run back up there and come in on the one or something, you know?
Do you feel like you have a special kinship or relationship with some of the guys that came in around the same time as you that are younger, like Danny and Garrett and, you know, those guys?
It took a while to warm up. You know what I mean? Like, I came from the old guys. Like, I came from the old guys. So I'm like, you know, used to that. I'm used to their rules. Things have changed. Old guys' rules are way different than the new guys' rules. I'll leave it there. You know, but I love the young guys though. We're all a part of some sort of thing, some sort of little new lineage type thing of this. So we're all a part of that whole, they all came in at like 2015, right?
Well, the real
like
new, the 3G, or three generation.
Yeah. You know, they came, we all came out together about through 2014 or 15, correct?
But I was thinking about you with the second generation more specifically, which I would say like Garrett and Danny, and those guys are sort of more like second generation from my perspective, right?
Yeah, we're in the middle. We're cusp. I would say we're cusp because, you know, but both of those guys, especially like Danny and those guys that are closer to my age, which is 38. So, you know, we're not all of us, the young guys, we're not that far from each other in age, even the ones that are like 25 or whatever, 26, we're still not that far from them. But with Danny and like Garrett, they're like brothers, and they can call me for a gig any day, and I'd be like, yeah, I'll probably do it. You know, I'll probably do it before I hear what the stipulations are, just because we had that type of thing. It was like, or don't, you know, send me can you do this track, or, you know, or whatever. Like, we just had that thing. We're always caring about each other's interests when it comes to working and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, I'll call you. You know what I'm saying? Because we're trying to do this thing. We're trying to build each other. So it's like, oh yeah, I need a keyboard player. We're doing some funk thing in Europe. I'll just use Danny. Or Danny say, I'll use Benzel to do this thing or whatever. You know, Garrett's got a band. He'll call us in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Funk Collective.
How do you like doing studio work like Detroit Rising or that kind of thing compared to the live stuff?
Depending on what the songs are, you know, the studio thing is way more parts. It's a whole lot of parts, and everything's super precise. So like when I do records and stuff like that, if they give me the time that I need, I might not send that back for a week or two. Not because I'm not playing to it, but that I've recorded it, but I record it, and then I sit there and listen to it, and then I listen to it again, and I'm like, I'm gonna play it again. I take like a couple recordings of it, probably do about 3 takes. Then I go home and listen to those 3 takes, and I'll either take one or I'm gonna do it again. So that process could take about a week or two sometimes. Just the same, when you're playing live, it's just all impulse, doing what you know. And on the record, you have a chance to make something, you know, create a groove, as opposed to live. You're still creating a groove, but that record groove is a little different. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain that, but it's like you're more focused on the intricacies of the hi-hat and the beat, 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 and all that other stuff, as opposed to playing something live. You might accent something differently than you would accent it on a record. Understood?
Yeah, but do you like both, or you prefer live?
Yeah, I like them both. I mean, I think, you know, live is just a whole nother energy that can't be compared to.
At least in the studio stuff, you can't worry about Billy Bass getting on your case because it's your own thing.
Well, now you gotta get by George.
Yeah.
George is worse than all of them. You know, but he doesn't say anything. He just looks at you. George is like your granddad. It'd be like, okay, I probably should do less right there. Matter of fact, George knows exactly what he wants. And basically, when George is in the studio, he just wants you to stay on just stay in this groove for like 10 minutes, and then they'll just do whatever they want to do. They'll just take the drums that you've just grooved for 10 minutes, and they can make a whole bunch of stuff out of that. You know, the energy of the studio is great because you get to have a playback. But now that we can do live and we get a playback from that, that's a whole nother thing.
How did your relationship develop with George, you know, and how does he sort of give you messages when you're on stage?
Oh, he's like a conductor. He is the band leader at this point. He's the conductor, and it reminds me of when I was in high school with my teacher named Mr. Stoffer. They're the same exact way. You know, really aggressive with their conducting. Like really aggressive. They'd be all cool and stuff when you're just being normal, just hanging out. But like with their conducting, they just turn into a whole other person. I kind of get that way now too when I'm like teaching and stuff. They get real irritated and like, no, it's like this, you know. Not that he has to hit me like that ever, but it's like, you know, it'd be like, you know, just give you like cues or say that he wants a roll right here. So we'll just say, blah, 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 you know what I mean? Or something like that. It's like, okay, he wants me to play better than that right away. So it's like, he just tells you things and wants you to be responsive to them. Like, just like stop, go, freeze, y'all, like all that type of stuff. He's that type of guy.
Were there some like maybe missteps you had when you first started as a band member where he kind of like said, no, do it this way? Or
Yeah, because they'll tell one drummer one thing and they'll tell another drummer another thing. So they'll tell one drummer, go ahead and have fun. They'll tell another drummer, no, do this. Because I think he just knows like the gauge. He's like, oh, I know that you can play what I'm thinking. That might be a part of why he let me play with him. Because at the least I tried to hit what he was saying to hit. And it'd be like, okay. Sometimes back in the old school days, you had to have the in-between of George and the band. So the band might be saying, don't hit that. And George is saying, hit that. So then you had to go past the band and hit what George said. There's an in-between between George and the band. This happens sometimes where, the band might want you to play and George might want you to play or something else, or he might want you to do a roll when they're not used to hearing a roll or whatever. Sometimes George, and it'll be like play it like the record. Playing like the record is different than playing it live. So if he says play it like the record, he means the record. So if he say play one inch like the record, that means like the record, which is a little different than just playing boom, boom, blah, boom, boom. That's live. The record is more like That's the record. That's the record as opposed to that's live where they pull it back a little bit. When they say you want the record, that means it's more like the tempo of the record as opposed to the live tempo, which is a little pulled back. That's what I learned from him.
How can you tell if you've maybe like hit something he didn't like, or you've irritated him or something? How can you tell?
They'll just start pushing you or something. They'll be like, speed up or something like that, or it'll be like do a roll, or like cover it up, something like that. You know what I mean? Or it'll be like, don't play nothing. It'll just be like, don't play nothing else. And you might be playing right, but it's just the way it feels to him. And he's like, don't do a roll. Okay, don't do a roll for 5 minutes. Okay.
Does he ever tell you afterwards, like good job or a pat on the back or anything like that? Or is it, if he doesn't say anything, you did good?
His wife will say you did good. We did good. I mean, he watches every performance afterwards. But the word will be going around, oh, it sounded good or something like that. So that probably means that he said it sounded good. If I ask him how was it, he'll say, oh, it was good. I don't ask him if I don't think it was good. I don't ask him. And they'll say, oh no, it was good, or something like that. I'm like, oh, okay, good. Because it's more about playing what he wants you to play as opposed to what you want to play. That's what Lige Curry told me a long time ago. He's like, the best show is doing what George wants, not necessarily doing what you think he wants. The best show is doing what he actually wants, which is a roll here, a roll there, pocket for a long time, or play it like the record, play it like it's go-go. Okay, just do what he say. This is any job, any band leader, Prince and all of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, the better that Charlie Wilson and all of them, the better you do what they really want, the better the show was. Even if you think you didn't play that much stuff or whatever, now you played what was required to the boss, which is a better gig than I showed my butt tonight and almost got fired.
Wait, when was that?
Never. Because I don't get that opportunity. I show my butt sometimes, but George won't say anything to you. Back in the day, like George won't say anything. The band leader will come up to you. Gary will say something. You know what I mean? He don't even have to get into it because there's just so many personalities that you got to get through. That was the other thing about P-Funk with those old cats. They are real funk mafia cats. They'll tell you suck. You know what I mean? They'll tell you it wasn't good, or they'll tell me that somebody else didn't like something more. Yeah, they'll say it. And that's always been a thing. Everybody takes the music thing so serious. So by the time you get to George, you probably straightened it out. And George expects you to go rehearse it. You know, he expects you to just know that you need to rehearse that part, or you need to go fix something, which means that you have to go talk to Blackbird or Lige. This is how the relationships come together too, where it's like, okay, I'm having an issue with a certain part. The only thing I can do is go to a certain person and ask them how it go. But then you have to play it the way they're telling you that it goes. So if they're saying it goes, there's like, oh, okay. So it's not what I thought it was. It's that, which is closer to how the record goes. So again, playing it closer to the record wins again.
Well, the guy that goes way back to recently came back and played to play with the band is Mike Hampton. So is playing with him different from playing with Blackbird, and in what ways?
I love them both. You know, they're both two of my favorite guitar players. I've always been in between these two guitar players my whole life of hearing these guys. And I was like, what is going on? You know, they both bring a different thing to the table. Blackbird brings me more of a McLaughlin-ish, Gameliola-ish. You know what I'm saying?
Jazzier, yeah.
You know, fusion-ish, but it's still Blackbird. And that's a thing. And, you know, Mike just reminds me of like Eddie Hazel and, you know, himself. A couple other guys. He's got a different thing. They both have a different thing. You know, I would love to have them both in the band like we used to. That would be great. But yeah, they're both just two different vibes. It's both a great time. They're both amazing. You know, playing certain things, like, you know, playing certain things with Bird, and then, you know, George will play different things with Mike or whatever. If you know what I mean. Like, you know, Bird, if you got Bird, George might call like Aqua Boogie and things like this. You know, and if you got, you could call Maggot Brain for both of them, because they both have a stretching out thing. And, you know, when that switch happened between Bird and Mike and whatever happened, you know, I got to play with Bird for some years. You know, so now we got Mike back. So now I get to get back with Mike and, you know, learn from him again. And, you know, I'm a little bit older, so me and him kind of connecting a little bit better, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love them both. I mean, I love them both. For sure, Blackbird is more sort of improvisational, like fusion. And Mike is, yeah, like you said, more rock and traditional funkadelic kind of vibe. And love it when they're both there. I remember seeing I was at the Beverly Theater show in '83, and it had those two guys and Eddie Hazel, of course, Gary too, but man, that was incredible.
And probably Boogie too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those were the days.
That was one of the loudest shows I ever saw. I mean, it was
you know, but even today without the new guys, you know, Traffiel, we got Traffiel, and he's growing into the thing. You know, he's a prog rock guy. George's grandson, Traffiel Lewis, he's like, you know, prog-ish. He's like rockish, you know, but he's getting into the funk thing, and he's getting in there pretty good. And, you know, we got Garrett in there, and he's, you know, playing rhythm, and he's been around it for so long, so he knows how the stuff goes. But we sat there at shows for so many days and just seen Boogie and Billy just playing these lines every day and just playing them like perfectly forever. And it's like, I could probably play it for somebody's house. I've seen it, you know. So he's picking up some things as well. And of course, you know, having Lige is a pleasure. You know, Lige is just a purist of bass. So for the most part, you're not going to have to worry about anything not being where it need to be. It's like a bed. You just go to sleep It's a very he lays a very comfortable bed for you.
And your dad and Greg Thomas, they've been doing it for so long too. And then it was great to see Greg Boyer come back also.
Yeah, and the couple shows that we had them three together again was colossal. It was like, wow, having that sound again. Big Benny's been, hanging in the house a little bit. He doesn't want to fly too much, but he still does shows in like New York and Jersey and, close places that we can, drive to. So we'll probably have all the horns next week in New Jersey.
Oh yeah, the big birthday bash. This people will see this after that, but as we record this, that's just next week. So that's exciting too. Sort of a homecoming for George, right?
Yeah, and I think they're naming a street after him or something.
Oh, very cool.
P-Funk Way or something. Yeah. So that's going to be pretty good. That's going to be cool. I'm actually playing in New York the day before with my little band called the Motherfunkaholics. A little something, little P-Funk spinoff type of thing.
Oh yeah, what's the set list like for that?
It's pretty original. We got some stuff that sounds funky. We got some funky rock, MTV-ish, rap-ish type stuff going on. It's pretty funky. We do a couple renditions of some P-Funk. How can you not? You know what I'm saying? Having P-Funk drummer and actually featuring Garrett as well. So we get to go into those realms a little bit. It's cool. Might have a couple other friends pop up too. Who knows?
Oh, sweet. Does Garrett do any of his songs with that group or no?
Yeah, we do one of his as well.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm a big. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his albums. I've been very impressed with what he's done on his own.
I played drums on a lot of it.
There's much more to this great Truth and Rhythm interview. Just continue on to the next part of the episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. And become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you very much.